What do you do when you need a rope and all you've got is twine? Or maybe you have a rope, but you're just not real confident that it's up to snuff for the application. Well, that's the situation that I'm facing. I have a potentially perilous hammock experiment that I'd like to try, but it requires a pretty considerable amount of rope. What I have an abundance of is this natural fiber sisal rope stuff that I'm not real comfortable that one strand of this business is going to hold up my weight.
I've grown up on a cow farm. This is a trick that I wish like crazy that I had known as a kid. It seems we always had miles and miles of baling twine, but always needed something with a little bit more girth to it. And I could take the time and try to braid 3 strands or braid 6 strands of twine, and about 6 hours later I'd have about 8 feet of twine, which was not nearly efficient enough. So first things first, in order to understand how this concept works, we're going to dissect a little piece of rope here. And you can see that a piece of rope is, and this is just a simple twist wind on it. It's not woven or anything like that. So most regular old rope is going to consist of several strands. This one just happens to be 3, and each of these 3 strands is also 3 strands. So these, we break those down to just their bare elements, are just twine essentially. So I don't have the technology nor the skill to do a 3-strand rope, but I'm going to show you how to do a 2-strand rope, which will enable you to make rope of twine, or will enable you to double up a rope that you've already got.
Now, why in the heck would you need to worry about doubling up a rope, doing all this twisty business to double up a rope? Why couldn't you just double up the rope? Well, you could. You could do that. You can just double it, fold it in half and use the rope double strength. But if you're going to be doing it, in any sort of repeated fashion or anything like that, as soon as you get slack on that rope, now you have a twist or a rat's nest asking to happen. Here's my twine, or what I'm going to be using as twine. All this is just the core out of a piece of woven nylon rope. I just pulled the core out so I can have just a single strand of string essentially. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist this. I'm going to twist it. I don't know. I don't suppose it really matters whether you go clockwise or counterclockwise. If you're doubling the strength of a piece of rope, you want to twist it against the pre-existing wind of the rope so that you're not pulling it apart. So if this was the rope that we were twisting, you want to twist it counterclockwise so that it's keeping that rope nice and tight, because if you twist it clockwise, all it's going to want to do is it's going to want to expand the strands there. There are various ways that you can do this twisting. If you're in a real primitive situation where all you've got is a stick, you can do it with a stick. Or if you need some good reason to just get out of the house for several hours, the stick method will work here, because I promise it will help you to take up some time. Let me just show you. Just put a loop in it so that you can hook your stick in. Once you got your stick in there, just wind it. Wind it like the old school rubber band airplanes, and just wind it counterclockwise. I like counterclockwise. Wind it counterclockwise until you get tired of winding it, and then wind it some more. That ought to be about sufficient. I, on the other hand, am not in a particularly primitive situation, nor am I looking for the most efficient way to waste a couple hours of my day. So I'm going to get rid of the stick, and I'm going to use my cordless drill with a hook chucked up in it. Now, if you have a cordless drill that runs on batteries, this will probably work also, or a corded drill. So we're going to wind this thing counterclockwise for a little while. The tighter that you wind this, the tighter it's going to want to wrap up on itself, and the more tight your rope is going to be. So once you get to the point that you feel like you've wound it enough, this is where a second hand comes in pretty helpful. If you have a partner, a helper, have them grab somewhere in the halfway mark. This is especially true if you have a long piece of rope that you're trying to double up. I think I can maybe get this here. I'll grab somewhere around the halfway point. Then I'm going to bring the two ends together. And then slowly, I'm just going to let it wind up on itself. It naturally wants to twist. Well, it was going to be slowly. And now where you had a piece of twine, you now have a very basic piece of rope. Now let's move on to do it large scale. With my handy dandy cordless drill here, I'll go ahead and put one in through an eye bolt that I have chucked up in the end of the drill. Alright. Just tie it off. Just a simple knot. And then get started. Now I'll go the other way. After what seems like a really long time of cranking, I'm gonna bring one end to the other end. See how this works. In theory, once we bring the two ends together, this mess will become a rope. It's at this point that I realize I probably should have done this with gloves on. After a while, this rope tears up your hands. Okay, now I've unwound it until I have the halfway point here in my hand, and it wants to twist. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently, as slowly as possible, I'm going to let it do the twisting that it wants to do. I don't know if you can see this. If I let go of it here with my left hand, it just wants to twist up. The whole rope wants to twist. So now, I'm going to let it do all that twisting. Now after fooling with it for a while, just kind of straightening it out, I have a rope that is double the strength and half the length from the rope that I started with before. And that will just keep itself together, much like a rope would. Now if I wanted to get really crazy, if I really needed the double or quadruple strength or more, I could do this whole same thing again. I could twist it all up and let this double back on itself. And then of course, once again, it would be double the strength of this and half the length. Now the last step to finish it all off is just going to be to take the end we had hooked to the truck, tie a knot in it. I'm sure that there's a more professional ropey way to do this, but this isn't going to be used for anything fancy. This is just to hold some weight. So there you have it. At the cost of only half the length of your rope, we now have twice the strength of your rope. Functionally, it's only a little, if any, better than just having your rope folded in half, but it's a little neater. You're not going to have two legs of your rope all over the place. So that's how you do it. That's how you double the strength of your rope. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. I'll see you next time.